Hi everybody and Happy New Year. I'm back in the kitchen and today I am going to make meatballs. So first what we're going to do is get started. I have, I don't know how many cups is here, maybe about 3 cups of fresh breadcrumbs. So what I used is an Italian like torpedo bun, and you remove the crust, and then I put it in my food processor just to kind of get it crumbly, okay? And then you're gonna take some milk. There is no measurement, you're just gonna pour enough to where it soaks, and because we want this to kind of get mushy. So I'm gonna push this in here because this has to sit for a while, so that needs a little bit more milk. So what I'm gonna do is just add, you want it to get nice and soggy. There we go. So like I said, about 3 cups of breadcrumbs, and I may not use it all, so that's okay. You just want to make sure that you have enough. So I'm going to let this sit and soak while we move on to the rest of the recipe. Okay, so next what I'm starting out with, and you can do any amount that you prefer, but I am starting out with 1.5 pounds of a meat mixture. I have ground beef and ground pork. Sometimes I'll also use ground veal. It depends what you can find at the grocery store. If you don't like pork, you can use all beef or vice versa. It really doesn't matter, it's a personal preference. But today I have 1.5 pounds total, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use 2 eggs for this and just dump them right in. You don't need to beat them, that's fine. Oops, and I got some shell in there. Don't make sure you don't put any crunchies in there. Okay, and what I have is 1/2 tablespoon of salt. So I usually use a full tablespoon if I have about 2 pounds of meat. I know that sounds like a lot, but you don't want to be afraid to season the food. Otherwise it's going to be a very bland meatball. And then I have some ground pepper. This is to your personal taste as well. I have maybe 2 teaspoons here, okay? I have about 1/2 teaspoon of, 1/2 cup of fresh chopped parsley that I'm throwing in here. I have 5 large cloves of garlic, and what I did is I minced them. I used my microplane so that it would get like a mush. I don't like to bite into chunks of garlic. So by making this very minced, it won't be so powerful when you bite into it. So I have 5 cloves there. If you're a garlic lover, add more. There is no right or wrong to this recipe. If you don't like a lot of garlic, then I would do at least 2 cloves, 1 to 2 cloves for 1 pound to 2 pounds of meat. Okay, and I have 1/2 cup of grated, this is actually a combo of Romano and Parmesan. Most people will use Romano in the meatballs because Romano is a little bit stronger of a taste. Again, personal preference. If you like straight Parm, then I would do that, but I would definitely make sure that it's a good quality cheese. Okay, so I have 1/2 cup in here. Looks like a lot, but that's what gives a lot of the flavor. Okay, so now what you're gonna do, clean hands, you're gonna get in here and you're just going to mix. Okay, just a little bit. You don't wanna overwork the meat, otherwise the meatballs will be tough. Okay, so it's just to get a little of that mixed up. Break up that egg. Okay, now with my breadcrumbs, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, you see how there's this milk in here? You want some of this because that's what's gonna give your meatballs moisture, okay? I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit of it out and throw it in. And then when you're mixing the meatballs, like I said, you want it to be moist. So if they look a little dry, add some of this milk that is in here to the meatballs. My Nonna taught me that one. She uses milk. Some people use water. So, all right, so like I said, I had about 3 cups, maybe 3.5 cups of grated, I don't want to say grated, but I guess it was kind of grated, the breadcrumbs. okay? And now I'm going to mix this all together. You want it to be mushy, okay, the breadcrumbs. If it's not mushy, then they need to sit and soak a little bit more. And you're just gonna get in there and work it together. Mix that bread in there. Now what I'm gonna do is after this is all mixed together, I am gonna let this sit for a while because I want the flavors to get a chance to marry and really soak up the salt, the pepper, and the cheese. And I'm gonna let it sit for maybe half an hour to an hour, and then I'm gonna form my meatballs, and I will show you what to do from there. But right now I want you to see, if you look inside here, see how you can still see part of the bread, and that's okay, because when you go to roll, and whether you fry your meatballs, bake your meatballs, or throw them in raw with your sauce, again, that's another personal preference. Some people like them a little crunchy before they go into the sauce. Honestly, I do both sometimes, but I prefer to put them in raw with my sauce. And I like that because I think it keeps my meatballs nice and tender. When you bake them or fry them, they kind of get a little, you know, tough on the outside, but some people like that. So, all right. I think that's enough. So I don't need any more bread, okay? And I don't think, this is pretty wet to the touch, so I don't need to add any more of my milk in here. So what I'm gonna do is let this sit, like I said, for about a half an hour to an hour, and then I'm going to, actually I'm gonna test it to see how the flavor is, because I don't wanna eat raw meat. So I'll take a little bit, make a patty, and I'll fry it and taste it to see if it needs more salt, more pepper, more cheese. That's a great way to figure out if you've got enough flavor in here, instead of putting the whole batch together and then you go to sit down and you go, oh, I could have used a little more of this, a little more of that. So a great way to test that out. Okay, I'll be back soon to show you the rest. Okay, so now we're back, and I am going to test a meatball to see how the flavor is and see if I need to add any more salt or pepper. But what I wanted to show you is, this was the size bun that I used. This is a torpedo bun, Italian bun, and I took the crust off, and this is what I put in my food processor to get my fresh breadcrumbs. Now, if you don't have this handy, you can also use plain white bread. Just make sure you take the crust off, because that doesn't soak up into the meatball, and then it won't blend well. So always take the crust off. So this is what I used. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take a small amount, okay? I've got a pan on the stove, heating up a little bit of oil, and make a patty so it cooks pretty quick. And we're gonna make sure that this tastes okay, so that I know if I need to add any more salt or pepper.
So what do you got in
Okay,
there?
so this is just a little bit of olive oil that's in the pan, so I can fry this up and taste it to see how it is. So what I didn't mention before is that I would love anybody who watches my videos to please subscribe on YouTube, and definitely hit the like button and subscribe. And also don't be afraid to leave any comments, positive or negative, because this is always a learning experience for even me. I learn as I go all the time, and I learn new recipes and new techniques. And if you have any suggestions, or you would like me to make a particular recipe, let me know. Leave it in the comments, okay? All right, so let me get a little spatula. I'm gonna throw my spatulas. My gosh. I'll just use this. Okay. So let's. Looks like a little sausage patty. Okay. All right. So also, I have a pot of meat sauce that I am cooking right now, that I put on a different video. So please look out for that. This is a meat sauce. And so what I'm gonna do is roll up all my meatballs and I'm gonna throw them right in my sauce. So as you can see here, this is bubbling mildly, which is what you want. You don't want it to be bubbling like crazy or your sauce is going to burn. And you want to make sure that you stir it often. I stir it usually every 15 minutes or so because I don't want it to stick. I have my flame on a very low and I have the lid slightly off so that the steam will escape and so it doesn't add moisture and make my sauce watery. Okay, so let's see how this is. Okay, this is good.
And the reason for this again?
I didn't used to do this, but I actually saw this as a tip and I thought, how ingenious. Why didn't I think of this before? Because when you're making the meatballs and you know you have all this meat, you really don't know exact measurement, salt, pepper, etc. Okay, so you could sit there and make a whole pot, you know, of meatballs, and then you go to eat it that evening, and then you say it's missing this, it's missing that. So make yourself a little patty before you roll up your meatballs, and you're going to taste it to see if you need to add anything before wasting all that good meat. So let's see what we have here. I think, for my liking, it has enough salt, but I think it needs a little more pepper. And actually, I would like a little more cheese in here. I like my meatballs nice and cheesy, but it does have more than enough salt. So, what I'm going to do is add just a little bit more. This is my grated combo, which is Parmesan and Romano. So I'm going to add a little bit more of that. And I'm going to add a little bit more pepper. Because me personally, and I know my family, we like things a little peppery. So my hands are clean. We're going to dig in here and I'm going to mix this up. Otherwise, it tastes delicious. So again, the question is, do you fry your meatballs? Do you bake them? Do what you want. Do how you're used to. Oops. I'm going to throw them right in the sauce. I know my sauce is going to cook for at least 2.5 to 3 hours. So that's more than enough time to go ahead and get these puppies cooked. So make them any size that you want, right? I don't do them too big. I just don't like huge meatballs. But that's a good size right there. There's no right or wrong. So, but I would try to make them all the same size so that they cook evenly. Otherwise, you're going to have some that are overcooked or undercooked. So just kind of look at them and make sure that they, or you could go ahead and you could weigh them. I have a scale right here that I could do.
Ice cream scooper?
And you could do that. Yeah, you could use an ice cream scooper. This way it's all the same size. I personally, I did that once before and it was kind of a, for me it was kind of a pain in the neck because the meat kept getting stuck inside. So yeah, I just kind of eyeball it and do that. So I'm just going to give you an idea of what we do here. So I'm going to take these meatballs and I'm going to throw them right in the sauce. Plop them right in. And then just use your spoon to carefully move it around so that they don't break open. Now if you're going to fry them, I would just do them enough to get them lightly browned on the outside. You don't want them to fully cook because then I think the meatball is going to be dry and tough. If you bake them, I would bake them at 350, just again until they're browned on the outside, and then throw them right in with your sauce. Now, if you're not making a sauce, then go ahead and cook them fully, let them cool off, put them in a freezer bag, and then you have them for the future for whatever you're going to use. You could throw them in a sauce at any time later. If you're going to eat the meatballs right then and there, then cook them fully. Some people just like to have fried meatballs on the side with whatever they're eating. Then definitely, obviously, you're going to cook it all the way through. But if it's going to go into a sauce, just enough to brown the outside. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you try this and that you like it. And please make sure that you leave a comment and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks. Okay, so now it's time to taste the meatballs. I'm really excited. It smells so good in here. So as you know, I was making my sauce. So I threw my meatballs in raw. And so now we're going to taste and see how delicious they really are. Oh, buddy, that looks so good. Okay, lucky me. Oh, it's really hot. Okay, so when you cut into it, you can't see it, but I can feel it with the fork. It's still very moist inside. Part of this, of course, is because of all the soaked bread that I put in here with the milk. That's what's going to keep it very, very moist. And I didn't fry them, so it keeps the moisture in as well, just going in raw. Okay, so now let's taste this. Oh, it smells good. I put a lot of garlic in here, so I definitely smell the garlic. Oh my gosh, this is so good. It's so moist. And I think just the right amount of garlic is in here. Any more, it might have been too much. But wow, it doesn't need any salt. It doesn't need any pepper. That little idea of frying up a patty first and tasting it, definitely the way to go. Because now I know my entire batch is going to taste really good every single bite. This is so good. You guys definitely have to try this and let me know what you think. And I'm just going to keep eating this meatball. Have a great night.